Hello, you've tuned to this week's episode of Next Steps Forward, and I'm your host, Chris Meek. As always, it's an honor to have you with us. Next Steps Forward is committed to helping others achieve more than ever while experiencing greater personal empowerment and well-being. Our special guest today is Bill Villafranco. For more than a decade, Bill has been involved as a donor, board member, board president, and now executive director of myFace, the respected organization that supports children and adults with facial differences. As compelling as that work is, Bill's life story is an intriguing one. His biography describes him as an advocate, a father, a philanthropist, and a speaker. But he's also a former Wall Street executive who survived multiple market crashes, knows the pressure of high-stakes performance, and the hidden pain that often lies beneath success. Bill has lived through profound personal loss, including the death of a young child and the heartache of parenting two daughters through addiction. He's also faced his own battle with depression and substance abuse, navigating years of despair before finding a path to healing through the practice of research meditation. Bill Villafranco, welcome to Next Steps Forward.
Thanks, Chris. It's wonderful to be here.
No, it's great to have you here. I know you've been working through your schedule, and so I appreciate you taking the time today. So, Bill, just from what I shared in the introduction, it's clear you've lived at least a dozen lives so far in the course of this one. And obviously, it's far from over. I'm a Wall Street guy. You're a former Wall Street guy. So let's start there. How and when did you find your way to Wall Street? What was its pull, and why did you ultimately decide to leave it all behind?
Yeah, I graduated St. Bonaventure University with a degree in finance and thought that Wall Street was the goose that laid the golden egg. That's where you'd make all your money. That's where you'd be super happy. That's where all life's problems would end because you had the means to make them end. And it started out that way for me, for sure. And I was doing quite well. But then my life took a hard turn when I was 28 years old.
And would you share your upbringing? What was your early life like? You mentioned your education at St. Bonaventure's. What shaped your worldview growing up?
Probably my grandmother and grandfather. Very, very close to my grandmother and grandfather, which is a really special memory for me that I hold really near and dear to my heart. I grew up in a little town in Rockland County called Nanuet. I'm one of three children. I'm the middle child. And I had a really great childhood. My dad worked for Nestle. My mom was a stay-at-home mom for much of my life. And then she went into the school system as a secretary. And I had a good life. I wasn't a great athlete. My brother was the athlete. I wasn't the smartest one in the family. My brother was the smartest one in the family. But I had all the values that my grandmother and grandfather taught me, which I think have really carried forward to me throughout some of the problems I've had in my life. And today, where I still look at those values as incredibly grounding.
As someone who was raised for the most part by their grandparents, a single mom, I can totally understand and relate to that. And so, birds of a feather here, my friend, birds of a feather.
Yeah.
So substance abuse and addiction became huge disruptive forces in your life and obviously the lives of your daughters, as I mentioned. Did you come from a family with a history of substance abuse? And how did you fall into substance dependency and abuse? And how did your daughters?
Interestingly enough, no. My family has no signs going back many decades of abuse at all. But my former wife's family did have alcohol addiction within her roots. And I wouldn't say that was the root cause of my daughter's addiction issues. It was more life circumstances. And for me, at 28 years old, we had a baby at home, and my former wife and I went to the hospital to have a child. She was all ready to deliver a little boy. And unfortunately, he died during the birthing process. He had a true knot umbilical cord wrapped around his neck. And when he was born stillborn. And back in the day, when the doctors told us about little Billy, he, wanted us to go through the birthing process for my former wife to have safe pregnancies and deliveries going forward. But at that moment, he told us that we were going to deliver a child who was no longer living. It didn't really hit me, nor did it hit my former, until Billy was actually born. And at that moment, he handed me Billy and said, you need to make a decision on what you would like to do with your son. And I said, well, what options do you have? And they were none that anybody would ever have to face. at any age, let alone 28. So we buried little Billy, but yet I never buried him. My father buried him. I didn't have the courage, and I really wanted to be there for my former wife and for my daughter who was home at the time. And I just put that away. I never dealt with it. I put my head down, went back to work, thought the best way to deal with this was to make everybody in the world happy, especially my family. So I needed to make a lot of money. And that's what I did. I put my head down and did make quite a lot of money and had another daughter about a year later, and then a third daughter, and then by the grace of God, a fourth daughter, and yet never dealt with the death of little Billy. And I just kept on pushing it down. I would buy the cars and buy the fun things and the watches and help people because of the ability that I had to make money, and thought that was it. Until about 15 years after, when I became incredibly intrigued by where he was, what could he have been? And I just fell into a really bad, deep, dark hole where, substance abuse started to come play into my life. But along that time, I was still able to maintain the relationships I had in my wealth management practice with my families, mainly because they were real good friends of mine. And I got to share with them some of the things I was going through, not at the granular level I'm sharing with you, but enough where they knew that, I was hurting. And I just kept abusing my body and trying to hold on to my family, but it wasn't working. Eventually, I came to a pinnacle point, and that pinnacle point, my brother actually talked me off the ledge, if you will. And I decided that there was meaning in my life, and I had four amazing daughters at home that I needed to get back to. And that was the beginning of where I came from that deep, dark hole. Now, my daughters, on the other hand, Amanda, who was about 27 at the time, we were going through a really bad divorce. And I think she took it really hard. I was very close to Amanda. And Amanda started experimenting until finally she settled on heroin as her choice. And Amanda overdosed 3 times. We thought we were going to lose Amanda each of those 3 times. And each of those 3 times, Amanda vowed that she would not use again. I knew in my heart that Amanda was stuck in a vicious cycle, that I needed to just be there for her, that one day she was going to tell me that it was her time and she wanted to get clean. And for the grace of God, she did. And today she's happily married. She's 8 years clean. She's 2 beautiful children. She's got a great marriage. And Amanda is a pinnacle part of my asset management firm. My third daughter, Abigail, was going through a very difficult relationship with her fiance, where he was, let's say, using force in the relationship. And she never wanted to tell anyone out of embarrassment. So she went to alcohol, and she decided that this man was not the right person for her and that she wanted to go to treatment. And she did. And she's 3.5 years sober. So both my daughters went to Silver Hill Hospital in New Canaan, Connecticut, and they got incredible care. They were taught many of life's real important lessons, and they've taken those into their own life right now, and they're really flourishing. We talk about it a lot. And in fact, Amanda is very open about what she's been through. And it's been a real amazing experience for me to now come even closer to my girls than ever before. And I've got remarried, and I have a little girl who's 9 and a little boy who's 6. And to see the family all come together has been really wonderful, but it was not an easy journey for me.
I can imagine what you've been through and what you just shared. And so I appreciate you opening up to our viewers and listeners on that, because it's got to be a very challenging thing just to keep talking about or to talk about it all. Do you find it therapeutic, or are you more closed off and just talking to me today?
No, I'm very open about it. My girls give me permission to be open about their situations as well. For me, it's I have nothing to hide and I have something to share. So therapeutic, yes, but more of an advocate for others that are in that place that maybe they feel like there is no way out. And, I love Jelly Roll, and Jelly Roll has an amazing song about walking through those doors and no one's on a winning streak.
Yep.
And it's life, there's opportunities for people to really look inside themselves, but they just have to have the courage and they have to have the people around them, the community around them to support them. And I think that's the truth in everything we do in life is surrounding yourself with people who care, who have the same values as you, who don't judge you, who stand by you. And I think that's why my girls are flourishing right now.
Well, they've got a great role model with you at
Oh,
the dinner
thank you.
table.
Thank you.
And maybe one last question for your daughters.
Sure.
You mentioned Amanda overdosing not once, not twice, but 3 times. Your other daughter with alcohol. Were there aha moments that made them say, "This is the time to get clean"?
It's interesting because both of those moments came when I walked into their life again in a very forceful way. So with Amanda, I couldn't take it anymore. I was not able to sleep. It was affecting me and, my ability to stay clean. And we just had a very, very difficult meeting and something that I don't wish any parent would ever has to do, but sometimes we have to do it. And we sat down and I looked at her square in the eyes and said, "You have 45 minutes to call me." I went to see her in her apartment and I said, "You have 45 minutes to call me. I'll wait downstairs. If you call me, I promise you I'll do anything in the world. If you don't call me, don't ever call me again." And Abby was a little different. Abby was just in a meeting in her apartment, letting her know that I see what's going on. I feel what's going on. I'm here to help you in any way I can. And she wasn't so quick. Amanda called me back in those 45 minutes. Abby, she took 2 days for it to really sink in that she is going to be okay. And that Amanda's route, because Amanda was first, is a route that Abby could also take. And having Amanda as such a strong advocate for Abby was really a beautiful thing. And my other two daughters, so my second daughter is a nurse at NYU, and my fourth daughter is a speech pathologist. And they just have this caring, beautiful nature about them. And none of the girls ever were upset with Amanda or Abby for what they were going through. They were so supportive of her. And I think that's the difference is that addicts in particular, they don't understand they're surrounded by love. They just have to kind of pierce through the darkness and see it. And once they do, there's a whole world ahead of them that's really positive. And that's how I live my life, thinking that and believing that.
You just mentioned the word addicts, and we're off script here a little bit, so I apologize.
No.
But some people say addiction is a disease, and others say it's life choices. Is it one? Is it the other? Is it a combination of the two? I'm just curious on your own personal insights and thoughts.
Yeah, I don't think it's one or the other. I really don't. I think that it's just for each person, it's different. And there's no one size fits all. For Amanda and Abby, could you say that their grandparents from their mom's side and the lineage of that side of the family was a root cause of it? I say no. I say life choices, but I also say they were impacted so negatively with the divorce. And Chris, when I tell you I was so close to my daughters during those years that I was married to my former wife, who's a really great person, but it wasn't there anymore for me because I was just dealing with so much. There was a split between me and the girls for years. So I think it's really a function of a lot of things that converge together at a time that you're susceptible. And so I think that is the way I look at addiction. And I believe there's a way out. I do believe there's a way out for everyone. I have a phrase that so believe in, and that's nothing is impossible. Everything is possible. And an addict, when you look at an addict, it's so possible for them. It's not impossible that they can get clean. It's very possible. And I take that adage in everything I do because I think there is a way out for everyone.
And I appreciate you dropping in the Jelly Roll reference. I'm a big
Uh,
country fan, a
yeah.
big fan of Jelly Rolls too. So you just shared, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, a dozen lives in the last 10, 15 minutes. And I know every story is different, but what advice would you give to parents whose sons or daughters are substance dependent or substance abusers?
So sometimes you just have to be silent. As parents, we want to solve the problem. We want to be able to help. And sometimes the help is just a simple, when you're ready, I'm ready. When you want to share, I'm ready to hear. I'll take you to every single corner of this earth to help you when you're ready. That's the hardest thing to do because we want to solve problems. We want to have our kids not feel pain. I never wanted Amanda or Abby to feel pain. I never wanted our family to feel pain. Unfortunately, it's a part of life. And we just need to, as parents, understand that and understand that it's okay for them to go through life and have a journey. But let's not forget that there are children and stand by them during those tough times. My phone was with me all the time, still to this day, because if they need me, I want to respond. A quick story. I was on um, the commuter boat between New Jersey and New York, and halfway through, I got a phone call from the Hoboken Police Department. And I knew right then Amanda was again overdosed. I lost the connection with the police halfway through across the Hudson River. So those next 30 seconds, 40 seconds were an eternity for me. When I landed on the other side in New York, I called, they told me what had happened, and I ran right there. But even Amanda knew in her darkest moment that she could call me or somebody could call me and I would be there as quickly as I possibly could. And that would be my message is we go through life, it's really hard. A parent, you're a parent for life, and we need to stand by our kids.
I mentioned at the beginning of this show in your introduction, your role with myFace. I was introduced to myFace by my connection with your director of family programs, Dina Zuckerberg, who's been a guest on this podcast and was featured in my last book, Everyday Triumphs, Extraordinary Stories of Hope, Resilience, and Impact. Dina brings her life experience of growing up with a craniofacial difference to her work at myFace. Your immersion in myFace began gradually and grew over time. How and why did you first decide to support myFace?
So first, the big plug for Dina. She's amazing.
She's more
What
than
she has
amazing.
done, what she's done, and the work that she has put together at myFace and the example she sets is just really beautiful. She's a
No
really
question.
beautiful human. So my work with myFace started as a result of a client, a wealth management client, passing away in 2010. And if I could just give you a quick background on Virginia Toolman. Virginia Toolman was a nurse. She graduated Wash University in St. Louis. And after a few years in the neonatal, she decided she wanted to do something a little bit more adventurous. So she became a stewardess on the long haul railroads. Back in the day, they were usually medical professionals and nurses. She met a man a few times through his journey from St. Louis through Dayton to Washington, D.C. And 30 years older, Harry Toolman, they fell in love, they got married. Harry was the patent attorney to the Wright brothers. And he was buying shares of this little pharmaceutical company in Seymour, Indiana that was in bankruptcy. And after they got married, he told Virginia, I'm going to put you on this board because you speak the language. So when I'm not here, this will be the goose that laid the golden egg for you. They only had a 7-year marriage. Unfortunately, he died suddenly. And she took that company in 1965 to 1995 and sold it for $187 million to a German conglomerate. So now she has a big liquidity event. She's looking for a money manager. She hires me in 1995, and I worked with her until she passed in 2010. Now, she never remarried, never had any children. So I was very close to Virginia. And she took me everywhere around the world to meet industry leaders, nonprofit leaders. She was instilling in me the principles of the philanthropy that she wanted me to know was so important. When she died in 2010, her estate plan was very simple. She left $87 million to Georgetown University Medical Center through a charitable remainder trust, $26 million to the Dayton Foundation, and $140 million to her private foundation, with me as the lead with no direction. And her command to me was, before she died, I've taught you so much. You've seen me. You know what matters to me. I am not going to tell you where to give my money, because when I need it to be put somewhere else, I need you to be able to go and help that organization. So now you start out, no direction, a lot of money, and you say, where do I give? So what she taught me is you go to the people you trust the most, and usually they're your friends. So I went to the gentleman who's been my mentor in the investment business for well over 30 years. And I said, where do you put your money? And I told him the circumstance, and he said, I love this organization, myFace. It works with individuals with craniofacial differences. And I said, let's go. So we went and I visited. And my very first visit, there was a dad and a little boy in the waiting room while the sister was in seeing the doctor with the mother. And this young boy was a little overweight and just acting up. And I looked at the dad and I said, is he okay? What's happening? Well, we have no time for him ever. We spend so much time with his sister because his sister has a lot of complex issues and he feels neglected. So we're going to take him to McDonald's after. And I said, oh, okay. And then I got to meet the doctor and I got to learn exactly what was happening with his sister. And I said, wow, I love this organization. It's about family. I love my family. It's about a complex situation that involves siblings. It's about a lot of things. So we started giving money to myFace in 2012. I continued giving until they asked me to sit on the board, which I did around 2013 or 14. Continue to give to this day. I rose to board chair. And then 2 years ago, our executive director retired, and the board asked me if I would resign my position as board chair and become executive director, which I did. And then last year, because of my position and my evolution through the board and all of that, they said, we need to do a national search for an executive director. We're just not going to appoint you. People, as a good fiduciary standpoint, we need to do a search. And I said, okay. So I participated in the search like others, and I was lucky. I was granted the ED position this December. So for the last 2 years, one is an interim and now is a full-time ED, I've got to really work the inner workings of myFace. And I have to tell you, it's an incredible organization.
It is beyond incredible. And where can people learn more about myFace?
So you can learn about us at www.myface.org, or you can contact me, William S. at myface.org. All of that is great. I would love to speak to anyone and everyone.
And everyone just heard Zeke awake from his nap. So for those who are new to the show, it means the Amazon or UPS guy are coming here shortly. So I apologize for that. I'll get him in a second. So, Bill, for listeners who might not be familiar, what defines a facial difference?
It could be congenital, meaning you're born with a cleft lip and palate. It could be structurally changes in your face. Maybe your eyes are wide. Maybe your nose is structured so you can't breathe properly. Maybe it could be that you don't have ears. That's really the main definition, is anything to do with the face.
And what are some of the most common misconceptions about individuals with facial differences?
First appearance, all the time. They're not smart. They'll never get a job. They'll never get married. They'll never find love. Those are the ones that are so untrue. But the first thing people do when they see someone with a difference is they cast judgment. And most of the time that judgment is so wrong with this community.
And as a follow-up to that, what kinds of emotional and social challenges do children and adults with facial differences often face?
Many isolation. Many are bullied. These are mostly the children. As you get older, it's the dating aspect. It's the job advancement. It's maybe even finding a job. Those are some of the things that our community experiences. But once the community is known well, which we are starting to be, none of that is true. Many people in this community are highly intelligent. Many of them have incredible talents. Many of them have so much to offer.
You mentioned the bullying piece. myFace, obviously has a major focus on anti-bullying education. What does your school outreach program involve? And do you tend to focus on schools attended by children with facial differences?
Yeah, so our program is called the Wonder Project. It was thought up by Dina. It's based on the book by R.J. Palacio, Wonder. And Dina and other members of the community, Naomi Levenstein for one, will go into a school and they'll present to the students about being an upstander, being kind, being empathetic, being someone that people want to be proud of. And when you see something, say something. And Dina and Naomi this year were in 72, Dina will kill me if I get it wrong, 73 schools, and they reached thousands of students with this program. And unfortunately, right now, it's mostly in the Northeast, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. But we just put together the Wonder Academy, which will give people around the country an opportunity to be trained in the Wonder Project, to deliver the Wonder program into their local schools anywhere around the country.
And I forget, is the annual event called the Wonder Ball?
Our gala?
Your gala, yeah.
No, it's called, good question, Chris. We just had it last week. myFace Celebrates. myFace Celebrates. Right. And it's quite an evening. It's an evening devoted to the community. So many people come dressed. So many people are just showcased, meaning they're on stage with their talents, their beauty, their stories. It's an opportunity for everyone to come together with a difference, without a difference, and just be together. And it's amazing. We had 350 people 2 weeks ago. It was spectacular.
Fantastic. And I know my good friend Adam attended that, and he's the one who introduced me to Dina, so I want to give him a plug also. And again, the website is myface.org. That's myface.org. We've been talking to Bill Villafranco. We'll be right back after a short break. Please stay with us. And we are back. I'm Chris Meek, host of Next Steps Forward. And my guest today is Bill Villafranco, Executive Director of myFace, the organization that supports children and adults with facial differences. Bill is a former Wall Street executive who survived multiple market crashes, knows the pressure of high-stakes performance and the hidden pain that often lies beneath success. Bill has lived through profound personal loss, including the death of a young child and the heartache of parenting 2 daughters through addiction. He's also faced his own battle with depression and substance abuse, navigating years of despair before finding a path to healing. Bill, before the break, we were talking about myFace and their anti-bullying program and the 73 schools that Tina and her team's been through. And so I want to make sure we get that number right for you and for her. How do you equip educators, parents, and students to create more inclusive environments? And maybe perhaps more important than the educators and parents, how do children respond when educated about facial differences?
So I'll tell you about my littles. Luisa and Enzo, 8 and 5. Um, it's all about making it normalized. It's all about showing there are no differences. It's all about showing empathy. It's about compassion. It's about showing that we're all together. We're all one. And I'll tell you, Joe DeMeo is a young man in the myFace community and craniofacial community. He was involved in a car accident when he was 19 years old. He was coming home from work. He fell asleep at the wheel. His car flipped. His body was burned over 80% of his body. Now, my littles have come to everything with myFace, and they have ever since they've been infants, because I want them to be around great people, regardless of where someone may be judged. So my girls and Enzo, they know it. So when we invited Joe over for Thanksgiving, I host fireside chats for myFace, and Joe was one of my guests. And we completed a fireside chat a few weeks earlier. We had a recording of it, and I'm in California, and I call my wife, and I'm like, Courtney, Joe's coming with his wife and his parents. Maybe you should show Luisa and Enzo the video. And she said, if you think so. I said, I don't know what I think, but yeah. So she does. And a few seconds into it, my 9-year-old looked at her mom and said, why are you showing me this? Enzo and we know Joe. We love Joe. We see Joe. We don't need to see this. And it just made me realize the true importance of everyone coming together. There are no differences in our hearts, maybe externally, but truly, if we have the same values, everyone is the same. And therefore, what we do in the schools is to show that. So Dina, Naomi, Justin, so many people with quote unquote outward differences teaching the importance of acceptance, anti-bullying, upstanding, all the terms that Dina loves to use, right? A shared story, all so important to show that, especially the youngsters where you have to start young, that acceptance is really important for happiness.
And obviously, with the creation and unfortunately the explosion of social media, it makes things a bit more challenging for some of those folks. But you just said something I had to write down because I want to use it, if it's okay, but I will quote you. There are no differences in our hearts. That's beautiful.
I believe
it.
it.
But it's 1,000% correct.
Yeah.
And I can see that you believe that. So I appreciate that. That's why I love the work that you do, and certainly myFace. And Bill, for people who've never experienced the despair of substance abuse and depression, what was daily life like during those years for you? And what others see and what did they miss about your despair?
I was a good hider of it. They say addicts are the best liars. And I wouldn't necessarily classify myself as an addict, but I would certainly consider myself a really good liar. I didn't want people to pity me. I didn't want people to worry about me. I just wanted to be left alone, right? I wanted to isolate myself for the pain that I was feeling so nobody had to feel it as well. That is the worst thing that one can do. Doing that alienates so many people that love you, that just want to stand by you. So I did that, Chris. I let people know that I was okay by faking it. Then I would go home and then I would, do whatever I was doing at the moment, and never really understood the importance of just opening up until I finally did. And when I finally did, there was a glimmer of light, and then there was just a huge ray of light. When I was in the midst of it, my youngest daughter, Molly, from my first marriage, I think she was 8 years old, and she drew me a card of a man standing, looking outward. And she said, she wrote on it, "There is light." 8 years old. And I have that card that I use as thank you cards to people, because it's the truth. We're all going to go through something at some point in our life where the light just dims. It can turn on pretty quickly when you're ready. And to false it and say you're ready when you're not is just making it worse. So that's sort of some of my philosophical approaches to life.
8 years old.
8. It's amazing.
We always forget, at least I always forget, what you can learn from children. The innocence, the purity, sometimes maybe the naivety of it, which makes it even more welcoming and warming. And so uh, I love that. I got to see a picture of that card.
I'll send it. Hey,
Thank
Chris,
you.
let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
What's the one word that a child uses all the time?
Like,
Why?
ah,
Why? 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 And as we get older, we don't ask too many whys anymore because we supposedly know the answer. And now having a second set of kids at 62 years old, I am the richest man in the world because I'm hearing why all over again. And the simplicity of a little child, why is the sky blue? Why does the moon change shape? Why? It's a beautiful thing. And if we all just took a little bit out of that and started asking more questions like why, our lives would be so much more enriched. So this is something I think about all the time with my littles when they ask me why.
no, and just not sure if you're a full country fan or not, but as you're saying that, I'm thinking about the Kane Brown song that's talking about his daughter in the back seat. She's saying, "Dad, you just see the bird fly by and the dog over
Mm,
there and the tree there and the squirrel. Why do squirrels have houses in the trees?" Is one of the lines, and so
yeah,
it's the why.
yeah, it's the why.
So we're going to talk about your recovery process. I'll call it, for lack of a better word. If it's
Hmm.
something else, please correct me.
No.
You said what ultimately saved your life was an unexpected and life-altering friendship with Hartanto Gunawan, a veteran teacher in Bangkok who introduced you to what's called research meditation. How did you meet him, and what was it about that relationship that felt different from others?
Hartanto Gunawan is my savior. There's no doubt. I met Hartanto when a client asked me to create a school in Bangkok, Thailand. And she had gone to Bangkok, Thailand often and wanted to help eradicate human trafficking, a huge problem in Thailand. So she said, I know this man in Thailand is a former Buddhist monk. I'd like you to work with him. So I did. For 2 years, we spoke on the phone. We created a philosophy around what we were going to do. And we opened the school, and it's a nursing assistant school where 20 girls have been trafficked or abused will come for 1 year. They'll spend the 1 year with Hartanto in our dormitory and go to Siam University to receive a diploma in nursing assistance. Upon that, they're guaranteed a job. And the key to it is they're guaranteed a place to live. Because in Thailand, there are many dormitories attached to the hospitals. And the concept was the nurses will make more money than what they pay for their living expenses and other expenses. And they could take that money and send it home to their parents to help eradicate the economic problems that trail people forever there. All through that process, I got to know him a little bit, and he's trying to teach me about Buddha, meditation, and this is, I wasn't in my best place at the time, and I rejected him, and I rejected him for years. I was just putting my head down, just trying to survive. Until one day I was in Bangkok with him, and he said, "Look, just meditate with me for 2 minutes." And I said, "Okay, I'll finally give in. Then will you leave me alone?" Because it was constant. And I meditated with him for a very short period of time, but the meditation wasn't a quiet meditation. He actually walked me through what my brain and my mind might be going through. And he was spot on. It wasn't sit there and breathe and blow out anything in your head. I want your head to be completely blank. It was, what's going on in your head right now? Is it a memory? Is it a perception? Identify it. Tell me what it is. So we did, and it was about a 30-minute meditation. It was incredible. And I came out of it with him, and we just talked about it. And then I became a student of his, where I would talk to him once a week, and I would meditate with him at the end. And because of that meditation, the PTSD that I had as a result of Amanda completely went away, because I could quickly identify what was happening in my head and understand that it wasn't real. It was either a memory or a perception of what was going on. My response time to people slowed because I didn't need to respond immediately to everyone. I could take a moment and think about the cause and effect of what I was about to say and anticipate what the other person may say. And then, if it was negative, why say it? If it was positive, move forward. So even in my marriage, I still think about that. You know, we tend to have arguments with our wives from time to time or significant others. And before I do, I say, what's the point? Like, honestly, what am I trying to get at? And if it's nonsense, I just don't say it. And it's not easy at times because we are very reactionary people. But if we could just slow down our responses before we say something and try to think about how it will be received and what does it actually mean, it's a better way to live. And that's what this research meditation is all about. Yes, it is settling your mind. It could be done in the shower, where people say some of their best thinking is done. It could be done in your bed when you first wake up. It could be when you're walking. It could be when you're driving. Because the truth is, only one thought can be in your brain at a time. One thought in your mind. It's physiologically impossible to have more than one. It just is. So if you have something in your head, just look at it for what it is. And the other thing Hartanto taught me in research meditation is nothing is permanent, right? Life is impermanent. You're born, you grow older, get sick, you die. It's impermanent. Everything is impermanent, including your thoughts and your feelings. So when you're having a really good day and you're really high, you can't stay there forever. It's impossible. So you have to be able to identify it. And then you need to be able to bring it down to a level of equilibrium. And just like when you're way down, like you can't stay there forever. It doesn't work that way. The quicker you can identify it, the quicker you can suppress any of those negative thoughts that lead to depression, even substance abuse. He tells me and told Amanda all the time, I'll put that needle on that chair. That will never, ever hurt you. What will hurt you is your memory of what that needle does for you. If you can get rid of that and make it so that you realize that it's impermanent, that you're going to have to do it again and again and again and again, you will stop using. So that's the way she deals with it after all of her other work that she had to do. Hartanto saved my life. There's no doubt. How he taught me to deal with my son's death, and then subsequently my PTSD and my own addiction issues, are all a result of this research meditation.
When are you writing a book?
I don't know. I mean, I hope I can talk to so many people about my life. Um, there's some things that I would say I'm not proud of, right? No dad wants to ever say I had addiction issues. No dad wants to say I was really depressed. We all want to say really happy things. My girls know me and they know what I've been through. And I would say we have a stronger relationship than ever because they know. And they know that I have faults. I just do. And I'm not going to let those faults stop me from being a good dad and a good human. I'm just going to identify those thoughts and those faults as what was and move forward.
Everyone has faults.
Yeah.
Nobody's perfect. Not the best athlete in the world, not the most attractive actor, actress, whoever. Everyone has faults. Nobody and nothing is perfect. So
Yeah.
I appreciate your transparency and definitely your candidness on all of this. Staying with the research meditation for a moment, what do you say to people who are skeptical or intimidated about it?
Try it. It's really simple. So if you're in bed, let's say, and you wake up and everyone's, I'm ready to go, and put your feet on the ground and you walk and stub your toe, ouch, goes away, doesn't it? Doesn't stay there. So when a negative thought comes in your head, just do one thing, identify it, memory or perception. If it's in your memory bank, it can't hurt you. It's in the past. If it's a perception, it's in the future that you made up. Why worry about it? I tell my little 9-year-old, you're taking a math test. What are you worried about? It hasn't happened yet. I know, but I'm not going to do well. How do you know? You don't know. So why do you put yourself in that mindset? And I think that's the easiest way to start, is just let that ping pong ball happen in your head. Memory, perception, memory, perception. Memories can't hurt you. If it's a good memory, hold on to it. Why not? It makes you happy. If it's a negative memory, learn from it. What did I learn? Get rid of it. Move forward. It's simple. It's exhausting because I do it all day long. So when I hit the pillow, I'm out. I am completely out because I am tired, because I'm trying to slow down. I'm trying to slow down my reaction to people, my reaction, my mouth. I want to slow it down because 9 times out of 10, when we say something that hurts someone, what do we end up doing? Spending more time apologizing for what we said. If we didn't say it, if we just thought a moment about how is it going to be perceived by them, you probably wouldn't say it.
Think before you speak.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You mentioned this a moment ago about being present with yourself. You believe that healing begins when we become present with ourselves. With so much going on in our lives and so much to potentially worry about going on around us and in the future, how do we become present with ourselves?
I'll tell you what I do. I'm a huge yogi. I love yoga. And yoga for me is an attack of your ego because some of the things in yoga you might not be able to do. Your body's just not bent like they show you on Instagram and Facebook, right? You can't bend like them. So the first thing is your ego. Like, you have to understand your ego, and you have to not let your ego get in the way of your daily decisions. And the second thing for me is breath work. Being able to breathe, being able to calm down your nervous system, being able to absorb and just hear yourself breathe is a very calming nature. So the two things I really work on is breath work and my yoga practice to really put my ego in a place that's constructive. You know, being 62 and having multiple knee surgeries, I can't do the marathons anymore. I can't ride my bike like I used to. So I have to be able to succumb to what I can't do anymore. And that means I need to tell my ego, hey, buddy, quiet down. I can't do that anymore. And I don't need to do it. So that's how I do it. Breath work is really critical.
You've been extremely open with us about your personal story, your family's story. How much of your personal story do you share with the individuals and families that myFace serves? Is it something that would create a closer bond with them or tend to be more of a distraction from their own concerns?
I'm an open book. And, like I said before, if you show empathy and compassion, if you consistently show that you could be trusted, not having a facial difference and working in a community that many of the members have facial differences, they're challenges. And I respect those. And I learn so much from just listening. So for me, it's all about just being present, giving them what I believe is important. I don't hide my son's death. I don't hide my daughter's addictions. I don't hide anything about me because I have an invisible difference. And that's an addiction and also a death of a son. Depression, suicidal ideations, all of that's wrapped inside of me. I have no problem sharing that because I want you to know I'm a human being. And I just want you to know that I care about you. Help me understand what I could do to help you. I'm not here to judge you. That's how I approach it. And I think that it's actually having my multiple jobs, I think it's given people the idea that this isn't his livelihood. This is something he's passionate about. And yes, I do get paid and all that, but I care so much. And I think the community in particular is really understanding that. more than ever these days, which means so much to me. And that means I have to show them my vulnerabilities.
When parents and individuals come to myFace, what are they most in search of? Is it a specific service, the network of support, or is there something else?
I would say one of the things that I've heard from the community that makes us so unique is a community for them. Some feel isolated, some just have a lot of questions. Newborn moms having a child with a cleft or a cleft in palate that never thought they would have that child. The surprise of having a baby with a craniofacial difference. Just the idea that there's a community out there that's there to help and there to help them along their journey, I think is the thing that really separates us. And mind you, it's not just at birth. We work with individuals all the way to adulthood. And it could be an acquired difference. Joe DeMeo, as I mentioned, Joe was 19 years old when his difference came. And when his facial transplant, when he had his facial transplant, he was 21. And he's a huge, huge supporter of the community and the work that we're doing. So you never know what life will bring you. But if something that does show up that you never thought would happen, myFace is their arms wide open to try to figure out how we could help.
And that's a great segue here. If people want to learn more and help, where can they go?
myface.org, www.myface.org.
And on all the social media platforms?
myFace. I'm not good at that, Chris.
No, we're not supposed to be.
But can we go to social media for 1 second? Because we did briefly run through it just a little while ago. So social media actually works two ways. There's the social media where people are out there talking about their difference. They're advocating for their difference. And therefore, social media could be really rewarding for us because there's a platform out there for people. There's an opportunity for people to talk about their stories. Now, it's the other side too. People could be cruel. People could be super cruel on social media. And they allow themselves to be open and honest. And therefore, they know they're susceptible to cruelty. But for many members of the communities in the craniofacial world, they think it's more important to be seen and heard than worry about what people think. And that's what's driving the myFace vision right now is we see you, we care about you, we understand. We'll support you. Very different.
No, I appreciate you sharing that very clear insight there. Bill Villafranco, Executive Director of myFace and the very definition of resilience and personal empowerment. Thank you so much for being with us today. Really appreciate your time and definitely the work that you're doing. So thank you.
Thank you, Chris. It's been wonderful, a true pleasure. And you do amazing work, Chris. And thank you for what you do.
No, I appreciate that. Right back at you, sir. I'm Chris Meek. We're out of time. We'll see you next week. Same time, same place. Until then, stay safe and keep taking